In the run-up to the big G20 event, we have several top dignitaries who are expected here in India. And to talk about what are the expectations of Argentina from this G20 summit, we have with us the ambassador of Argentina, Dr. Hugo Javier Gobbi, joining us at the moment. Thank you so much, Dr. Gobbi. And let me begin by asking you, from this G20 summit, first up, what are the expectations that you have that Argentina has?
Well, first of all, I have to admit that India has proposed a very ambitious and a very inclusive agenda, and very much focused on the development of the Global South. As a country of the Global South, we feel very much identified with that agenda. And we think it's very inclusive because India did it that way. India started the G20 presidency by organizing a meeting with all of the Global South countries leaders. And in that meeting, India did not go and tell them what they should do. It went and asked them how we can help. What are your priorities to include in that agenda? So in a very humble, generous, and and leadership way, India proposed an agenda that is very favorable to the Global South.
Right. So also Argentina is now going to be joining the BRICS grouping, which has seen an expansion. What do you think about the possibilities that have opened up after this joining?
Well, I think it's a great honor to join the grouping. I think the grouping has a very significant role to play in the international sphere. And if you look at it, 60% of global growth comes from the BRICS countries. So we are very, very honored to be invited to the grouping, and very much grateful to India, which was very positive in pushing our candidacy forward.
Also in 2017, it was Argentina that had the presidency of the G20. Can you take us through what are some of the challenges, what are some of the consensus building efforts, particularly in the global environment 6 years later? And with a war that is taking place, for instance, in Ukraine, does that consensus building become that much more difficult?
Well, we have to admit that the situation, it was not easy at that moment. Argentina managed to reach a declaration, and in the years before that, not even the G7 could reach declaration. So what do you call it? Things. But of course, things are much more difficult nowadays. So we have to take into account that the tensions, the geopolitical tensions, have risen much more than they were at the time of Argentinian's presidency. And India has been very wise in preserving the forum as a space for dialogue, as a space of cooperation that is good for everybody and for mankind. And it has really done its most to try to build consensus, and I think it has been very successful in that way in reducing tensions in the world.
Right. So Argentina has criticized Russia in the past, and in fact, you've also taken a cautious line on sanctions. However, in the joint communique at Bali, at the end of the summit there, all participants agreed to the phrase that this is not an era of war. What is the challenge now to take this further at this point of time, and are you hopeful that there will be some kind of joint understanding on this issue?
Well, Argentina has a very similar position to India. We are on the side of peace. But we recognize, as India has, that this is a forum for cooperation, for economic cooperation, for to take into account challenges that are of great significance for the world, like climate change, like trade, and it's not the forum really to discuss geopolitical issues. So in that sense, we would like to keep the focus on what is really important for us, because this is the development agenda, and try to leave that other discussions where Argentina has a clear position on the issue and the other discussions to the forums that are really the United Nations, which is the forum who should deal with geopolitical issues. So I know that it's going to be very difficult to reach a joint declaration because these two paragraphs, how do you call it, the countries of the G7 wanted to be included, and China and Russia do not want it to be there. So, but we have to look at all that has been achieved during India's G20 presidency and take note of that and push forward that agenda, which is of decisive importance for the global South.
Right. We've seen the Argentina relationship evolve over the past decade or so, and
well, Argentina's relations has evolved to becoming a strategic relationship. How do you call it? That came through in 2019, and then our relations have expanded in many ways. Our trade has last year it had increased 70%, and how do you call that? I'm taking great pride because it has increased both ways, 70%. So our exports are booming to India. India's exports are booming to Argentina. There's more investment in both ways, and there's also cooperation in very sensitive areas. We're developing cooperation in the space area, which India has invited the countries of the global South to participate. We have a traditional cooperation in the nuclear area. Argentina has inaugurated, an Argentinian company has built a molybdenum plant in Mumbai, and we have a cooperation in science and technology, a lot of cooperation going in agriculture. We're both major agricultural producers, and so there's our relation has expanded and has grown and has gotten deeper, and I think we're very grateful and very happy to see how things are going.
Right. Argentina and China also have close ties, and we're at a time when a number of nations have been talking about decoupling and diversification of supply chains. Where does Argentina stand on this?
Well, Argentina, you know, the issue of fragmentation of the world's global economy. And as a country of the global South, we think this is the worst thing that can happen. There's many excuses for the fragmentation of the global economy. Some are geopolitical, others are environmental, new types of subsidies and of protectionist measures. So actually, what does this mean for the common citizen? Common citizen, what does it mean to not be able to buy where one wants and to not be able to sell when it means you will buy at a higher price because you will not be able to buy at where it's cheaper, and you will sell at a lower price because you will not be able to sell to the best market. India has the capacity to keep its markets open and keeps its view open to, but not all countries have that capacity. And so I think to protect the international trade system and protect the centrality of the WTO and keep our trade flowing in an open environment, it's of great benefit for the countries of the global South.
Right. Also, Mr. Alberto Fernandez, Argentina's president, has confirmed participation in this particular event. Are you looking forward to receiving him? And in terms of his relationship with Prime Minister Modi, how do you see things strengthening from here at this G20 summit?
Well, the president really is very much engaged to come. He will have to be in Chile, in Santiago de Chile, in the 11th for a very important meeting. But he wanted especially to come to India to first of all to say thank you to Prime Minister Modi for his backing to join the BRICS, to say thank you for and to support his development agenda in the G20. So he made really a commitment to come to India to participate in this G20 and to back India's Prime Minister's Modi agenda.
All right, that's very interesting to know. Defense cooperation, sir, is one area where we have seen Argentina and India explore a relationship. How do you see this further developing? Your defense minister was in India on a visit as well. Do you see these ties strengthened in the defense sector as well?
Oh, the defense cooperation has been growing very much. 2 years ago, we didn't have a military attaché here in India, and now we have an attaché's office. And we had the visit twice of the chief of the Air Force. The chief of staff came once. The Minister of Defense, the Secretary of Production. There is cooperation growing in many areas and in many of the defense sector, and there's some even MOUs that are negotiating and negotiating. There is an agreement on the supply of the maintenance of helicopters in Argentina. No, I think the cooperation in this field has grown very much, and the potentiality is very large. And if we have a strategic bilateral relationship, we could not leave defense outside.
Outside of that, yes. Also, you've met, UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. You have also spoken about cooperating in agricultural sector. Can you take us through what exactly are the strengths and what exactly is the areas that you see these cooperations happening in?
Well, Argentina is, as you know, it's a major producer of agriculture. We produce food for 450 million people. We're a country of 45 million people. So and India is an outstanding agriculture producer, because you have to look at what has India done. It provides food for 1.4 billion people, and it has become even an exporter in many areas. So that's not only because of our land and the sun and the water, it's also because of the technology that is involved. And of course, in that area, there can be a lot of cooperation and expansion of cooperation. And we are looking to cooperate in locust control, for example. We're looking to cooperate in zero-till. We're looking to cooperate in the areas of mango production, which India has great technology. And so it's a South-South cooperation. It's a sharing and seeing how we can help each other. And it's really good to know that not only the Indian government, the federal government is involved, it's also the state governments and the UP government. And I visited Yogi, and he had all the information about all of the areas possible for cooperation, and he was very much favorable to develop this cooperation. So we're going to involve the states and Argentinian provinces also in this process.
Right, and you also visited Banaras, speaking of UP and speaking of the Prime Minister. How was that experience?
Varanasi. Varanasi is the spiritual capital of India, and it's one of the spiritual capitals of the world. It's really a fascinating experience, and it makes you shiver just to see it, and to see the temples, and to see the spirituality of the people. And it shows to you that there's much more than just material things in one's life.
Right. Also, Dr. Gobbi, football is like a religion in Argentina, and it's also extremely popular here in India. The popularity is only growing, if anything. Messi is worshipped here as well. How are the two countries going to harness the mutual love for the beautiful game to build on bilateral ties?
Well, how do you call it? We are looking at cooperation in this field. Many the clubs from Argentina are looking for cooperation in India. I think that's part of the how do you call it, empathy from both countries is the love of football. Everybody here knows Maradona, everybody here knows Messi. Also they know Victorio Campo because of her friendship with Tagore, and so there are many bonds that link us, and I think it will be very good to promote tourism one way and another, and getting people to know each other, and sports can be an excellent channel to develop relationships, and I'm sure that with 1.44 billion people, you have to have a couple of Messis running around here that we haven't discovered. So the possibilities are great. In Kerala, they're making a film about its passion of India for Argentinian football. So I think it opens many doors, and we're very grateful for all of India's support.
In Kerala, we've even seen fans of Argentina wearing the Argentinian t-shirts, also clashing with fans of other countries. That's the kind of craze that we've actually seen even during World Cup and during club matches. But let me also ask you, sir, moving on to few more areas, particularly on trade. India and the Mercosur group of Latin American countries are holding discussions on expanding preferential trade agreement. Tell us what to expect on this front.
Well, we have a preferential trade agreement in between Mercosur countries, which is Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina, and Bolivia is in the process of joining also. And so that area of trade is about 300 million people. It's a significant market and a significant trading partner. And we have a small trade agreement with only 450 positions, and we wanted to, both sides want to expand it and to put many more products in it and expand also the preferences. And I think that can be negotiated fast, and also both sides are looking with a lot of interest the possibility of starting a free trade negotiation, a free trade agreement. That takes longer because you have to negotiate many rules and many things, but we can do both things in parallel, improve our deepen and expand our preference agreement, and start looking at the possibility of having a free trade area.
Also, India has advocated for the inclusion of the African Union in the G20. How do you see this demand? Would you support such a move?
Oh, very much. We support very much this. I think how do you call it? The representation in the G20, it's still too centered in the north. How do you call it? In the developed economies. There's not enough representation of the countries of the global south, and having the African Union will give a stronger voice to the African view, and I think that was a very good initiative of India's presidency, of India's government, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, and of course Prime Minister Modi pushed forward this idea, and it's getting the backing of all of the members in the G20.
Dr. Gobbi, thank you so much for speaking to us here at Times Now.
Thank you.